As we look forward to the World Cup, which is starting in 2 weeks, we're going to talk about some Premier League first. There is going to be a lot of managerial change coming up for next season, with a lot of managers departing and new managers joining. With Mikel Arteta being the longest one, staying at Arsenal nearly 7 years now, or actually just over 7 years. But after that, many new managers joining, the likes of Roberto De Zerbi, who's been at Tottenham for only 8 games now. Michael Carrick has been made permanent Man United manager. Enzo Maresca looks set to join Man City, being, of course, the former Chelsea boss. Xabi Alonso, the former Real Madrid and Bayer Leverkusen boss, joining Chelsea, who've got no European football. And the man who took Bournemouth to European football, Andoni Iraola, joining Liverpool, of course, last season's league champions. So we're going to be talking about every manager in this video and talking about why they're going to be a Big Six manager and why there's been so much change in recent history with managers. So we're going to enjoy this video. It's guys, been nice to record. Always remember to smash that subscribe button to develop the channel, and let's get into this one. So first of all, let's talk about the one that's been here the longest, the Arsenal manager, Mikel Arteta. Coming off his first Premier League title win that has been due for so long now, after 3 consecutive second place finishes due to Man City, of course, win the league twice, and Liverpool under Arne in his first season win the league. Mikel Arteta has finally done it, leading Arsenal to their first Premier League trophy in 22 years. Very, very long overdue for a club of the size of Arsenal. Of course, the last time was 2004 when they went invincible, the likes of Thierry Henry, Sol Campbell, Dennis Bergkamp and Arsene Wenger as manager. So Mikel Arteta is the first man to win the league for Arsenal in 22 years, which is already a big accomplishment. And he took Arsenal to the UEFA Champions League final this year, going up against, of course, already the reigning champions, Paris Saint-Germain, which was always going to be a hard task. Of course, Arsenal came up short on penalties, taking PSG in a 1-1 draw all the way to the end, only having 4 shots all game though. So can Arsenal remain their perch? It's going to be something very, very interesting. With a lot of change with new clubs, Mikel Arteta is still the only one standing in the space of a year. So Arteta, he's got to make some big signings. Last time, I called signing Victor Gyökeres, Christian Norgard and Eberechi Eze as 3 big signings. Of course, led them to a league title and led them to a Champions League final. Of course, they got to the Carabao Cup final, including that as well, losing to Manchester City, and the FA Cup quarterfinals, losing to Southampton, in which was just really a fluky win for Southampton. So Arsenal, at their times, got unlucky, but they still walked away being the champions of England. So it wasn't a bad season by nowhere near. It was a very, very successful season for Arsenal. But of course, next season, they want to do bigger. Arsenal's aim now is 1, to retain the league title, and 2, go back for the trophy they've never won, the UEFA Champions League. Of course, this season they showed that they can get very, very close to that trophy. And it's the biggest trophy in club football, in Europe especially. To win the UEFA Champions League, of course, we know Real Madrid have won it 15 times, but it's Real Madrid. But to win the UEFA Champions League, and even like PSG to do it back to back, is one of the hardest tasks, maybe the hardest task in football to ever do. You could argue with the World Cup, of course, win that back to back, but I'm talking European football here. It is probably the hardest task to do. So Arsenal want to go and win that Champions League. But of course, with new faces coming in, Andoni Iraola going into a Liverpool squad that has got Champions League football, but needs a big revamp after, only finishing 5th, scraping Champions League football, and didn't have a very good season trying to retain their Premier League title. City, with Enzo Maresca coming in and Pep Guardiola leaving after 10 years. Arteta, the student of Pep Guardiola, is now like the Pep Guardiola of this conversation. I'm not trying to make that because I know Arsenal fans are ridiculous. I'm just saying he's been here the longest, he's got the most experience out of these managers, and he's the only one to win a league title out of every manager in the league right now. So that shows you one thing as well. Of course, got other phases. Xabi Alonso going to a Chelsea with no European football is going to be tough. Chelsea could come back and maybe push for their first league title in nearly 10 years. So it's going to be a very interesting season for Arsenal. Can they try and win the league again? Can they go for the Champions League? And can they try and win the FA Cup for a 15th time in their history? Maybe even go for the Carabao Cup, which they've not won since, I think, 1992. So let's move on to the new ones. So let's move over to North London neighbours, Tottenham Hotspur. Of course, Roberto De Zerbi joined Tottenham at the start of April, coming into the final 8 games of the season, where De Zerbi secured survival for Spurs, finishing on 41 points, relegating West Ham with 39 points to the Championship. De Zerbi, of course, getting a back-to-back 17th place finish for Spurs, but he says it's unacceptable for a club like Tottenham Hotspur. He already feels a connection at the club after 8 games, so it's going to be in a very interesting window, with Spurs looking like they've wrapped up Marcos Senesi and Andy Robertson, of course, multi-Premier League winning player. This could be a very interesting window for Spurs. Already wrapping up 2 free transfers. Spurs have a big budget spend, looking at players like Rafael Leao, Savinho from Manchester City, Jean-Paul Van Hecke, Sparta Bruggen, Spurs are going into this window knowing that they need to come back and try and get European football. Having a season without Europe is going to hurt them financially, of course. In the Champions League this season, they're going to see a very, very different budget after the World Cup, after the summer, of course, when they finally get to pre-season. So that's going to be interesting if Spurs can maintain. And if Spurs will they dare to do and spend money, achieve, get in the squad, make that squad one of the strongest, and possibly even push for a Champions League spot, because that's Spurs' aim. Of course, they've been very inconsistent the last couple of years. If you take away the UEFA Europa League victory back in 2025, it's been a very, very weird couple of years for Spurs, finishing consistently outside the Champions League spots with no silverware coming in consistently again, of course, with the likes of Harry Kane, Heung-min Son, Christian Eriksen all leaving in that space of time. Yeah, it's not been an easy couple of years for Spurs. But this could be the summer where they revamp. They remove all the deadwood. The ones that don't want to be there, maybe the likes of Christian Romero, Vicario, and many, many more that do not want to be at the club anymore. So can De Zerbi put leadership into Spurs? Can De Zerbi take Spurs back to the European spots? Possibly push for an FA Cup or a Carabao Cup victory, winning one of the cups for their first time since 2008 for the League Cup. And of course, it could be their first FA Cup victory since 1991, which would mean the first time in 35 years. So De Zerbi's been at 8 games, so how about we get on to probably the newer ones. Going to West London, the blue side of London. Xabi Alonso has joined Chelsea, of course being sacked by Real Madrid back in January after not achieving enough, being second in the league, and Barcelona running away with the league, which they eventually did. Xabi Alonso has joined Chelsea, who of course finished 10th in the Premier League. They're the second to worst Premier League finish in the last 6 years, which is absolutely embarrassing for Chelsea. The only time they've done worse was in the 2022-23 season, finishing 12th when there was 3 different managers for Chelsea in one season. But that's been the same thing this season, of course. With Enzo Maresca being at the start of the season, coming off a Club World Cup and UEFA Europa Conference League victory, Chelsea had a lot of ambitions and expectations to achieve this season. Of course, finishing in the top 4, getting a Champions League place, being Club World Cup champions, like they said, champions of the world. Chelsea had to prove that they were still the side that they once always were back in the likes of 2005 and 2006 with the best defensive record ever that is still held in the Premier League. But they did not show that this season. Crashing out of the Champions League in the round of 16 to eventual winners once again, Paris Saint-Germain. They didn't look good. They didn't really go far in any cups. The FA Cup, they did get to the final, which I'll give them, but they were not good enough and had a very, very easy draw of the likes of Wrexham, Hull City to get there. It was not hard for Chelsea. It was very, very easy task for a club like Chelsea Football Club. The Carabao Cup, they got dumped out in the semi-finals by Arsenal, So it's not been a great season, of course. And when you're finishing 10th behind the likes of Sunderland, Brighton, Brentford, Bournemouth, it's not great for Chelsea at the calibre of their club and the money they bring in, the money they spend. To have that value like the likes of Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez, João Pedro, Cole Palmer, Cucurella, Reece James. It is absolutely embarrassing that Chelsea finished 10th with that high level of a squad. But this could be a big change. With Xabi Alonso, the level of coach he is, going invincible in the Bundesliga a couple of years ago with Bayer Leverkusen to win them their first ever league title. And of course, with Real Madrid, he didn't have as much successful time. Not even really getting 6 months, so he wasn't really treated well, to be honest with you. But if Chelsea give this man time, Chelsea could be a very, very dangerous squad, if we have to be honest here. If he gets the players he wants, which he's already looking at, he's looking at some big top names. The likes of Arda Güler has already been rumoured, and Enzo Fernandez rumoured to leave. Xabi Alonso will want to get rid of the ego in his squad. He knows what to do. He has to get rid of the players he don't want, bring in the players he wants, and then Stamford Bridge could be rocking once again. But with no European football, it could be absolutely massive for Chelsea, and this could be vital with that whole week's preparation now for every single game. They can focus on the cups, which of course they've lost 8 domestic finals in a row since 2018, which is absolutely diabolical for Chelsea, man. That is terrible. But this could be the season where everything changes. Chelsea could easily push one of the cups, maybe the Carabao or the FA Cup, but the Premier League's the big aim this season. They have to get back in the Champions League or at least a UEFA Europa League spot. They cannot finish anything lower than a Europa League spot. Otherwise, it's a failure in the first season for Xabi Alonso. He cannot walk away. Even if you've got the Conference League, he cannot walk away saying that's a successful season. He has to walk away, possibly get into a cup final and get in the Champions League. For Chelsea expectations and the way they sack managers, this could be very, very interesting. So let's move on. Now this could be interesting. Andoni Iraola, of course, taking Bournemouth to a 6th place finish this season, getting them UEFA Europa League football. The first of the time Bournemouth have qualified for European football. If Villa didn't beat City and Liverpool done their job against Brentford, we could have seen Bournemouth in the UEFA Champions League next season. And a lot of people questioning why Andoni Iraola left. There's many reasons for that, I think. I think he's reached a peak with Bournemouth now where he won't do any better, because I really respect Bournemouth for their finish. It is absolutely incredible what they've done this season, but they will not go any further. You'll never see Bournemouth finishing in the top 5, and if you do, well, that's just mental. But it won't happen. So the problem is Andoni Iraola, he would have walked away, possibly getting far in Europa League, but would have finished like 11th or 12th, and Bournemouth would not be happy, and eventually it would lead to him getting sacked. So it would literally decrease, his profile, his CV. So it was the perfect time to leave. Getting European football for Bournemouth is going to go massively on his CV, and Liverpool are going to snatch him up after sacking Arne Slot with a terrible season, only just securing Champions League football in 5th place, but even being lucky, that's a coefficient spot, of course. That is big for Liverpool. But to bring in Andoni Iraola could be big, but it also could be worse. This kind of reminds me of Thomas Frank at Spurs. Liverpool taking a little bit of a risk for a manager that's not had much experience at a top club in the Big Six, of course, managing Bournemouth and managing clubs in Spain. He's never really had the job of a calibre like Liverpool Football Club. 20 league titles, 6 Champions Leagues, the most trophies in England. In my opinion, the biggest club in England. This is going to be challenging for Iraola. And it could go amazingly if he gets the players he wants and he gets the players out. He got the whole pre-season, he's got Champions League football to focus on. Other teams are still transitioning, like to Manchester City, even Man United still under Carrick, Chelsea. There's still teams that are transitioning. Of course, Arsenal is going to be the big rival next season. But if Liverpool can win the Premier League title next season, or even get 2nd place under Iraola, that is a massive success. But I think Liverpool should push for one of the cups, most likely the FA Cup. They should really go for it next season, try and win the FA Cup. Because if Iraola was to walk away with a 2nd place finish and win the FA Cup, that is a very successful season for a manager who's only managed Bournemouth and a couple of Spanish clubs who are not the top like Barcelona, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, etc. This is big for Iraola, but it also could go really bad if he starts off a little bit dodgy and very inconsistent. If we get to about January, February, and he's sitting maybe 7th or 6th in the league, he will get sacked. He will, because the Liverpool fans will get bored of him, and the expectation of Liverpool Football Club is to try and push for the league title, push for the cups, and try and be competitive in everything. If he's going at the Champions League, if he's already out of one of the cups and not look like he's going to get Champions League football, 100% he's going. 100%. So this is a big gamble Liverpool are taking, but it could pay off. But let's move on to the man who saved Manchester United Football Club. Of course, that man is Michael Carrick. What a job he has done going to Manchester United in January, where Man United sitted sixth, after drawing with Leeds United away at Ellen Road, not even being in the Champions League spot, and Ruben Amorim being sacked, of course, after complaining to the board about not getting what he wants. So Michael Carrick came in looking to be an interim option, and no way he's going to sign permanently. But he came in his first 2 games, he beat the top 2, beating Manchester City in the Manchester Derby 3-0 at home, which is wow, that was incredible. And then, of course, being Arsenal away, who were top of the league at the time and only lost 2 games all season, 3-2. Matheus Cunha, what a day he had there. And Man United then went on to pick up the most points of 2026 in the Premier League to secure a 3rd place finish and return to the UEFA Champions League in 3 years. And that is big for Man United, of course. Coming off the Europa League loss to Tottenham back in 2025, leaving them with no European football and a 15th place finish, the worst ever for Manchester United in the Premier League and league history. It was absolutely embarrassing for Man United. But this season, of course, they looked like they weren't going to get Champions League football again. They were better, of course, a lot better, but they still didn't look like they were going to get back in the Champions League, which that is the aim for Man United. The size of their club, of course, 20 league titles, 3 Champions Leagues. Man United are arguably the biggest club in England, so they needed to get back to the top. And of course, the last 13 years have been rough for Man United, not being close to a league, winning a couple of cups, yeah, but never winning the Champions League. They've won, of course, 1 Europa League, got to 3 Europa League finals in that time, and lost 2 of them. So It's not been very successful for Man United, but this could be the turning point for Man United. If Michael Carrick does not get found out in his football and keeps playing the way he does and keeps getting these results, I would not be surprised if Man United going for a title charge next season. But of course, like I've said, Manchester City in a big transition with Pep Guardiola leaving after 10 years. This is Man United's time to pounce now. With Liverpool in transition with Andoni Iraola, Arsenal could possibly get found out for their defensive and their corner tactics soon, which is their big boost, of course. This is Man United for the taking. This is their chance to push Arsenal to the limit and go back to the late 90s and the early 2000s when United and Arsenal were such fierce rivals going for the league every single year. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a repeat of that this year, and Man United could really try and pick up their first Premier League title in, at that time, will be 14 years, which will be the longest drought in so long for Man United. But this is for the taking. Michael Carrick could do it. I wouldn't be surprised, what he's done the job of Man United. If he gets this summer, he gets the players he wants that are Champions League ready, Premier League ready. He needs a depth. He needs a good squad that is going to be able to compete in multiple competitions and do what Manchester United should do. So let's move on to the biggest change of the summer. And the biggest change of them all is Enzo Maresca to Manchester City. Like I've said multiple times in this video, Pep Guardiola leaving Manchester City after 10 years is going to be one of the biggest changes we've seen in Premier League history. Probably since either Jurgen Klopp left or even when Sir Alex Ferguson left Man United. Because what Pep done for Man City in the last 10 years, of course, we need 7. I repeat again, 7 Premier League titles in 10 years. A Champions League, their first of a European piece of silverware, of course. Multiple FA Cups, multiple Carabao Cups, multiple Community Shields. What Pep has done for Man City was absolutely phenomenal, and no one will ever touch that legacy. But Enzo Maresca is now coming in to probably the job that has the biggest expectations right now. With Man City, of course, having no league title in the last 2 years, with Liverpool and Arsenal winning the last 2, City need to get back on their perch. After a 3rd and 2nd place finish in the last 2 seasons, City want to win the league again. But will that be the aim this season? I don't know, of course. Enzo Maresca coming in is going to be big for City. He will let players go that he doesn't want, and this could be a big change for City. The way they play football, they might not play the Pep Guardiola way anymore. But Enzo Maresca is a Pep Guardiola student. Pep produced Enzo Maresca. Pep, of course, used to have Enzo as his assistant coach, I think, after Mikel Arteta left back in 2019. And then, of course, he joined Leicester, where he won the Championship for Leicester, got promoted out to the Premier League, then got a job at Chelsea, of course, winning the Club World Cup and the UEFA Europa Conference League in his time. This is a big, big job for Enzo Maresca, and Pep chose him. He handpicked him. Pep handpicked Enzo Maresca to be the next Manchester City manager and lead them into the new era and the biggest change to their football club in over a decade. So what change will there be in the Premier League this summer? And what change will there be for Man City quickly? Let's quickly not finish on Man City yet. City want to push the league again this season. Now, that's the aim for Enzo Maresca. He must win the Premier League next season. And Arsenal's not going to be an easy challenge, of course. With them coming off a Premier League champion, of course, they just won the league. They'll want to go for a league again next season. Liverpool, of course, looking like a great side. They could look like a great side, sorry. They could be back up for it. And like I just said, Man United, of course, they're there for the taking. They need to capitalise. All these teams need to capitalise, but especially Man City. Of course, coming off a Carabao Cup and then a Carabao and FA Cup victory, of course, the domestic double. City still had a successful season, but they need to back that up with either a Premier League or, even if you're bigger, asking, a UEFA Champions League victory. City want it, and the fans want it so badly. And if Enzo Maresca brings one of them in his first season, even if he brung just one Premier League title in his first season, well, I think it's rock and roll football from there, and it's a new generation and a new era at Manchester City and the Premier League. So Roberto De Zerbi, Michael Carrick, Andoni Iraola, Enzo Maresca and Xabi Alonso, all quite new to all these big jobs. Mikel Arteta still the lone survivor, the one still standing. How will it look next season? How will next season, the 2026-27 season, shape up? It's going to be interesting. If you're coming from TikTok, I thank you for being here. Follow the TikTok and subscribe today. But if you're just watching from YouTube, thank you very much for watching this video. It has been nothing to record. Always remember to smash that subscribe button to the my channel. And I'll see you later. Faces soon. Goodbye, guys.